Okay, welcome to the Bowser Press podcast, the co-op podcast, that is. My name is Matt.
I am Isaac.
And we are going to talk about, holiday gift-giving games, that sort of thing.
Yeah, this probably will be our last show. We might do one before the year ends, but...
Yeah, we can make that happen, probably.
Yeah, definitely the last before Christmas.
Yeah. So, if you are still thinking about what to get your gamer friend or relative for Christmas, here are some last-minute ideas from us. And just kind of a odds and sods list of some games that we liked that we didn't talk about when we talked about the VGX nominees and that sort of thing.
Yeah, you have a list for this because you came with the topic. I'm probably going to be more running off the top of my head.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Feel free to jump on any of the games that I talk about.
All right, well, let's just start from your list then. A Ride into the Mountains. I haven't heard of this one, so please explain.
Okay, yeah, A Ride into the Mountains is something I discovered this week when I finally turned my Ouya on for the first time in months, which I guess that's a whole other topic. I can go into that right now real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and make the argument that I think an Ouya would make a good gift for your gamer friend this holiday season. For one thing, it's only $100. It's the cheapest game console you can get for someone. I think probably it's a good gift for like a kid, because what I noticed, my girlfriend and I were babysitting a friend's 3-year-old kid this week, and that is the reason I turned it on, because he was interested in playing some video games. So we turned it on and downloaded some games and gave him a shot, and he was having a ball with it. And granted, standards for a 3-year-old are not that high, but I think that's kind of the thing. It's like, as everyone knows at this point, even if they dismiss it, they would probably at least admit that it's a good emulator machine. So, you can put all sorts of emulators on there, NES, Neo Geo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, and just load it up with tons of ROMs. And even the internal storage it's not big, but it's probably big enough to hold just a ton of ROMs, and you can introduce kids to all sorts of cool classic games, and then you yourself play it at night if you're inclined. Some of the games, like A Ride into the Mountains, is would make fun games for the whole family to play, so to speak. But A Ride into the Mountains is, I thought, really cool because it actually came out on iOS in the summer. And it came out on Ouya in November, which I guess is yet another sort of indicator of like why it's kind of an inessential console and why people just sort of scratch their heads at it. But at if you don't have an iOS device, if you don't have a smartphone, if you're like me, like the weird Luddite that I am, then it's a way to play some of these cool little micro indie kind of games that are out there. And with A Ride into the Mountains, it's 99 cents on iOS. It's actually free on Ouya. You just download it and you get the whole game. And it's pretty full-featured. It's got like its own achievements and stuff like that. There's things you can unlock after you've beaten it. But basically what it is it's kind of a 2D Shadow of the Colossus is how I would describe it. It has a kind of almost like Atari 2600 aesthetic, but like a better resolution, and it has like parallax scrolling, and it has kind of almost like a rotoscoped animation look to it, a la like Out of This World or something. But the whole gameplay revolves around you are riding a horse through the mountains and up hills and things like that, and you're fighting these like spirit demon enemies, and you sort of use the left analog stick to move your horse and the right analog stick to flick. You sort of pull back on it and aim in the opposite direction of where you want your arrow to go, and then sort of let go as if you were pulling back an arrow and letting it fly. And it's simple, and it's not anything like groundbreaking or anything like that, but it's just like a really nicely, tightly designed arcade game that you can finish in like an hour or so. And like I said, there's like different perks and things you can earn after you've beaten it, and it has like a cool little has kind of a cool ambient electronic score, and It's a cool game, and it's to me indicative of some of the nice gems that you find on Ouya that are usually pretty cheap or sometimes free, and yeah. So I think the Ouya would make a good gift, not a football. Sorry, that was kind of Christmas Story reference.
Okay, well, I hope one would not use an Ouya as a football, though I imagine some people would.
Yeah, there's probably a YouTube video to that effect already. I mean, isn't there a YouTuber that just destroys consoles the moment they come out?
Yeah, well, people just do things for attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's the internet.
Yeah.
We reward people being horrible human beings these days.
Yeah, it's true.
Another topic, but next thing on your list, Super Mario 3D World. Still haven't played, so go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, or not last week, but last time. Yeah. Previously on. I mean, since we talked about, I was pretty down on it, and I'm less down on it now that I've 99.9%ed it. I'm stuck on the last level. It's like infuriatingly hard. It has no checkpoints, and it's just like one of those gauntlet kind of levels that just gets irritating when you keep failing in the same spot when you're not particularly good at games like I am. But I would say it's better than my initial impressions, and I just don't know that it's worth all the hype that everyone's been giving it. But I mean, once you get sort of like into the territory of trying to 100% it, it does open up and become like a really like pretty challenging and fun game. It does just owe a lot to like Mario 3. So I mean, if that's a good thing, I would say, for most people. But for me, I was looking for a little more innovation. But and it does have it in
How
spots.
dare you speak ill of Mario 3 or the cat suit? They never had a cat suit before.
I will say the cat suit is pretty cool, actually. Like the moveset that it gives you is pretty sweet. Like the way it controls feels really tight and really responsive, and the moves that it gives you are different from some of the moves Mario's had in the past. So I mean, it could have been anything. It could have just been they gave Mario the ability to climb and do a dive. It didn't have to be a cat suit, but it ends up being some pretty cool movesets that it opens up. The whole what? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the only complaint I really heard about was that the game sort of gives you the I win button.
Yeah.
After only like 5 deaths or something like that.
Yeah, the white Tanuki suit. Yeah, it's a lot like the sort of white Donkey Kong in Donkey Kong Country that would like just guide you through the level, and only this time like that, it's optional. You can skip past it and not use it, so that's nice. But yeah, I would say it serves a purpose. I mean, when I was 4 or 5 years old and trying to struggle through NES games, some of them just were too hard. They were too hard for a 4 or 5-year-old to get through, and it's nice, I think, for kids who just can't get through it otherwise. But it does. I guess it is kind of a bad precedent to set, because it's not like the core game is particularly challenging. It's not exactly Dark Souls or Devil May Cry 3 or something like that. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is indicative of sort of these games are for everyone who wants to play them sort of mentality that's swept across gaming as of late. But yeah, it's a good game, and it's certainly worth picking up and playing, I would say. But I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. It's like everyone.
I just still remember, it was at Galaxy 2. They had a DVD that told people how to play the game. Like, you're watching a DVD telling you how to play a Mario game.
I don't remember that. I picked it up when it came out. It didn't come with my copy didn't come with a DVD. I don't remember hearing about that.
Yeah, Mega 64, they had a skit about, it was basically treating you as if you were the dumbest person on the planet. It's like, this is how you do the thing. And it's like, oh, Mario's an Italian. If you don't know what an Italian is, Italians are... It just keeps going on these tangents. And it just finally ends. It's like, we just think you're stupid because you're watching TV on how to play a Mario game.
Yeah, not necessary. Yeah,
Yeah.
you do get those, like for Skyward Sword. They had a live action instruction on how to how to put the condom onto the Wii remote and fasten it to your wrist and stuff. It was just like this, this mildly attractive white woman against a white background, you know, demonstrating it for you. It was pretty
Might as
strange.
well be installing a catheter.
Yeah. The Nintendo catheter. Well, they did have that heart monitor thing they were going to put out. It never happened.
Yeah. For the elderly people playing the Wii, it's like, we call hospital.
We
doesn't have enough RAM.
Yeah. Well, what about you? You have some maybe more out of the way things that you would like to recommend?
Let's see. The stuff I played this year, I'm gonna recommend Payday 2.
Mm.
I've sunk more time into that game than any other game this year.
Yeah, I haven't touched it. I'm definitely curious about it. So what's so great about it?
Well, I think it's the fact that it's the whole full four-player co-op aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that you're going on these varying heights. I guess I don't know. There is a lot of shooting in it, though the goal is always try to get money. I guess it's that I like to stealth through in that game, and it's really hard to stealth. Like if the alarm goes off, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So you have to be like really precise and really careful, and it's really hard to find a good partner that does it. But when you do, it's really satisfying.
Yeah, I would think so. I had the experience with I never played the first Left 4 Dead, but with the sequel, I sort of never really found a good group to play through it, and I found that playing it with people who were sort of willy-nilly in their approach, where it was not particularly satisfying. I can imagine a game like that. You really need people to be on board with teaming up properly to make it really a really cool experience.
Yeah, Payday is a lot about high-end finesse, just like doing things correctly, and there is, it's the whole like chain. You can't necessarily have like a weak link because people can like hold you down if you're not careful. But it's not like was it the I guess I just like something that's like a multiplayer shooter that isn't just focused on killing other people, but is focused on co-op and trying to overcome these oppressive obstacles together.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the kind of games that get me the most excited. Absolutely. I like working together in meaningful, strategic kinds of ways if the game allows it.
And the character leveling system, which is skill point based, which is I think probably always one of my favorites because you just get skill points and you can throw them into a variety of trees, so you can make a really customized heister.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. The skill tree is kind of essential in the first-person shooter multiplayer game, I guess, these days.
Well, I like that over the Call of Duty version where it's just flat out leveling,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to like grind for your unlocks. I mean, technically you still do have to grind for your levels, but with that aspect of the game, you'll know you're progressing. And I guess also is that if you're teamed up with someone that's ultra high level, that's a good thing. Whereas in most of these games, if you're with someone who's higher level, you're probably fighting against them, and they're gonna just floor you because they have all the really good unlocks and you have nothing.
Yeah, that is a problem with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate the sort of skill tree that opens up options rather than like you get the next ability and it's better than the previous one. I guess it's more interesting when you have a lot of options that are all viable.
Yeah, definitely. Next on your list is Earthbound.
Yeah. This I will come at it like this because what's everything to say about Earthbound has already been said. But I guess my hook that I bring in speaking about it is that I never played it back in the day, and like probably some people, or maybe I guess a lot of people, since it was kind of a bomb, I was put off by the advertising, and that's why I didn't play it. And obviously, now that it has gained the cult status that it's gained since then, I've become aware that I need to play it. And now that Nintendo has finally released it on the Wii U, I got to play it this year. And I have to say, as far as things living up to the hype go, this is the most impressive experience of that I've ever experienced. Like, it really does live up to the hype for me. It's a really, really great game. I mean, I won't go into detail, but
Yeah. Well, actually, getting into it, I'll
Okay.
make a slight confession since you mentioned you like. Oh, I really haven't been able to finish Earthbound. I never can get past like the first city. I always get
Hmm.
like occupied with something else in the meantime, and then don't come back to the game. And I imagine the start is not necessarily the strongest. I mean,
It's
there's
not.
there after that initial opening, it's kind of really slow.
Yes, this is true. And I had the same experience. I played it on an emulator some years ago and had the same exact experience, and never went back to it. So when Nintendo finally released it officially, it was like it was a no-brainer. I had to get it, and so it's like I feel like now that I like spent the $10 on it, I felt this obligation. I owed it to myself to actually play it, and yeah, that first part is kind of slow and not particularly great compared to how the game but compared to how good it gets later. And yeah, it's just so filled with like the translation is fantastic. It's just so clever and fun, and there's so many like just like weird characters that are like people talk about. A game having character or it's quirky or whatever, and but this is an instance where the game really does have a personality. The characters in the game are unique and interesting, and the writing is fun spirited and really just great. It really. I mean, when you're
What, didn't you play The Last of Us? Everything has to be like if it's worthy of being good writing, it has to be dark and depressing.
right.
That's what gamers want. What's
Yeah.
with this happiness and sunshine?
Well, no sweet without the sour, right? This is sweet done very very well.
Oh
And
God, Vanilla Sky.
I don't. I was actually referencing House of the Dead Overkill, but uh,
uh,
I've
okay.
never seen Vanilla Sky. That movie looked way too pretentious for me to handle.
It really is, and it's.
But basically, what I love about it, Earthbound, is just how it just blindsides you. There's moment to moment, you're constantly being surprised with what ends up happening in it. Actually, the thing with Earthbound is it does have kind of a dark edge to it at times. It's one of those things that it's sweet on the surface, but there is a sort of dark edge to things at times in it. And in the same way that like classic fairy tales or things like that, things that
Well,
are
I did hear that like the villain, the Image's last boss was like influenced by like was it like a dead baby or the director like he watched a film when he was really young that depicted a rape and he was so traumatized by it that that's like all the images and like all the dialogue that's going on is what he remembers of seeing that.
wow. Actually, I haven't finished it yet. So I'll have to take your word on that, and I'm intrigued to finish it now and see that. It's possible. I don't know. But yeah, the game definitely has all sorts of weird left turns in it for sure, and that's part of what makes it so great.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll probably have to try like just forcing myself past that beginning hump
yeah.
because as I said, I've tried the game 3 times and every time it's just I mean, I'm still have to pick up stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of clunky in terms of the interface. It's a very sort of post Dragon Quest kind of RPG, and there are elements of its like the strict gameplay elements of it. There are aspects of that are like well designed and actually pretty unique and interesting. But there are also some clunkiness. There's some clunkiness to it there too, So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like that's one thing I think when that a lot of older games could benefit from. I'm not even saying like change the graphics, but just the interface and the way you move around. Like the older Ultimas, I have some
mm,
of them, but I can't really, even though I know they're like great games, I can't really
right.
play them because you have to like type everything out in a very specific way just to move around and
Yeah,
just
yeah. It is a problem. I've read. I don't know if you know the Brainy Gamer, but I remember reading on his site, years ago, when he one of the classes he teaches about probably like a history of video games class, and Ultima 4 I think being a required game to play, and then the students just whining about how hard it is to get into and stuff, and I think it's a problem for like a current generation in terms of like appreciating classic video games. Some of them are hard to go back to, even if there are worthwhile aspects of them. I guess comparing it to like say watching a silent film or something like that.
yeah, though the thing with games is that as long as you still have the core design, you can update the way you interface with it and it will still translate.
Hmm.
I know this for sure because, to go on a little bit of a tangent, Brutal Doom.
What is that?
It's a mod for Doom
Mm.
that basically kind of updates it. Like it changes the default pistol around to like an assault rifle,
Mm.
and does all these other crazy things. It also makes it so there has the WASD,
Right.
makes the enemies more fierce, and just all these other crazy awesome things. Like it adds so many more difficulties, just so much more to the game. And the core design of the game, like the enemy placement, everything else, is the same. The thing that's changed is the interface and just a little bit of the touches. Like it's a shit ton of TLC done
Yeah.
to Doom, and it does feel like a fresh new game. It's still awesome.
Yeah. You mentioned the WASD controls. I didn't realize that it didn't originally control that way, because when I played it back in the day on PC, it was very briefly. I never really had a PC when I was younger that could run it, and I didn't actually play through Doom and complete it until a couple years ago when I got it on Steam. And it actually does have WASD like by default controls on the Steam version. So is that like a modern update that they did for that?
Yeah, yeah. Like, or at least, or it might, because I don't like when I was playing the PC, it was just use the keyboard keys because it's the first person
Mm,
shooter that a lot of people played. So
yeah.
people hadn't come up with the WASD. There was like strafing,
Right.
I think, but it wasn't it wasn't as prevalent, or it wasn't as prevalently understood that the player was going to do it. Usually you would run through, look left and right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you imagine like playing it like that? You walk forward into a room and then turn to. It's like I love
Yeah,
sliding sideways into the rooms and blasting.
yeah. The best way to put it was, at least from a gameplay perspective, if you were like playing overhead, it would be kind of like, I guess, would be asteroids where you sort of move forward
Mm.
and you're turning around.
Mm-hmm. I will say I've played Wolfenstein on Steam, and it does have the same old school controls. It's not WASD controls for Wolfenstein. You do.
Yeah, yeah. You can play some PC stuff. I forget what it's like GZ Doom or something like that. You can. There's something that you can load up Wolfenstein through,
Okay.
and it'll give it like the WASD controls, and that does make a huge difference for that
Yeah.
game.
I know. I tried to. I downloaded Wolfenstein on my brother's computer. He's 11 years younger than me. I'm 29, so he's 18, and this was a few years ago. And he was big into Call of Duty. And I was like, hey man, have you ever played Wolfenstein? This is like one of the original first-person shooters. It's great. And we got it on Steam and started playing it. And when he realized you couldn't use WASD to play it, it was like, do not want. He was done right then and there, basically.
Yeah, just because that feature is such a major advancement because the ability to turn and shoot and continue to like move in a direction,
Mm-hmm.
so you can dodge, the incoming fire, is a big, it's entirely a control related issue.
Yeah. I will say though, there's probably something to be said for uh, people at least trying to take a look at the original games as they were originally presented, just for like historical and
Oh yeah.
posterity.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just saying to make things more powerful, and this is
Yeah.
the interesting thing with games is that you can update a game, like really update it, and it's better for it. Whereas with movies, we hate when like they do new effects on Star Wars,
Right.
because we like those movies the way they are.
Yeah. Well, I think that we would be a little more okay with that in the case of Star Wars if George Lucas didn't like insist on destroying the original prints, basically. You know, like please keep the original too. But
Yeah, I think it's. I think we had this conversation during one of our off dives that
yeah,
basically, like, and it'd probably be a smart business decision. Just do like your multi editions of Star Wars, like you have whatever your current version is, and then you have the original uncut, and just put them both out.
yeah,
Make tons of money.
yeah. He's just not going to do it. It's weird. I don't understand it. But yeah, that's what's cool about games like that. I mean, something like the Tecmo Bowl thing that came out that had you could just hit a button to switch between the like new graphics and the old original graphics. You could just hit a button and do that.
Yeah. Monkey Island, which by the way, Secret of Monkey Island, always a good game to get people. There's the special edition they did, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, totally. I remember reading something about it, how it apparently it wasn't like a perfect sort of representation of the original game. So I never played it, the updated one, but
You can switch to the original at
Okay.
like any time, so you actually could play it that way.
okay, that's pretty sweet. I probably should pick that up then.
I actually kind of wish you could do a mix and match of features, like you could play through the original version but keep the voice acting in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be neat. Yeah, that's what we need. We need more like Criterion Collection style packages of video games, you know, that just have all sorts of cool bonus features and every version of it that you could watch. I mean, I think of like the GW Popst film that Criterion Collection put out called, I think it's called Three Penny Opera. He did like a German version, which was like his native one that he did originally, and then they shot an entirely different version of the film for a different region. I can't remember what country, but you buy the Criterion Collection version of that movie, you get both films, and it's a neat way of presenting something. And it'd be cool if more games were presented that way, I think.
Yeah, the multi edition.
Mm-hmm.
Though, would we want for everything? Like, for instance, the Silent Hill HD collection is ironically inferior to the original ones because
Yeah,
they couldn't work out their right issues.
that's why it's such a shame. You know, those are classic games that people want in the best possible format, and even if they only screwed it up just a little bit, it still would have been a huge disappointment. And yeah, it's just too bad because yeah, it would have been really cool to. What if they did Silent Hill 1, you know, and sort of did a brand new version basically that updated it from the ground up, but then also
They
included the original.
technically did. That was Shattered Memories, though. Technically, that wasn't a redo of one.
Yeah,
They took the basic storyline elements and they twisted it around into a completely different game. So
yeah. I mean, I've played Shattered Memories, and I'm not that fond of it myself. And it's a different. It's like a reimagining. It's a different sort of thing. I'm talking like the exact same game, but like with updated visuals, and that's the only difference. And then you could also like maybe like again.
and maybe a slightly improved control scheme, not to the
Yeah.
point where it takes the horror away, but that's ironically is like user interface and controls. Like those are the things that need updating more than graphics, in my opinion, with some games.
For sure.
Like,
I mean,
like older RPGs are a good example.
Yeah. Yeah, having to go into a menu and click use or whatever, all that stuff is not something people want to screw around with now. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like if you present it with the original and a sort of modern update version, I think that can be a really cool thing. And it's not done often enough, I think. But
Yeah, well, let's see. And going with the updates to classics,
Yes.
Fallout 1, 2, and Tactics
yeah,
were for free on GOG. So.
yeah, and the sale's over now, but it certainly would have been for if you're a cheapskate like me, a great gift to give to someone if you picked them up for free. And I mean, tons of games like that on Good Old Game or Steam or whatever you can gift, and stuff's cheap on all the
Yeah.
time on there. Classics
I
like that.
still think that Fallout 1 probably has one of the strongest opening movies to any like game.
Yeah.
Just because that Ron Pullman voice going war never changes, and it goes over this like history of like human conflict, and sort of gives you some actually a good amount of the little backstory of like what happened without really telling you what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't realize it was in the original. I know that there's something similar in the third game.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the thing that they used to was it try like bridging all the titles together is that it has that Ron Pullman narrator going war never changes.
Mm-hmm. Which it's become a cliche by now.
Yeah. So let's see. You put Serious Sam. Which Serious Sam?
Just the original. I mention it simply because it's something I've played recently. I missed out. Never played those games in the past. I got it on a Steam sale for like $1.50. So
yeah.
If
going back to our Doom thing, it's always funny how whenever there comes back out a shooter that's more like the original Doom, it's like to a lot of people it's held as like the second coming of Christ. Yet not that many people make them anymore.
Yeah, I wish they did, because Serious Sam, as someone who's never played it until now, is just, man, it's so much fun. It's such a cool game, and it is very sort of like more of like a Doom or Quake style game, old school style, and but it does have its own. It definitely has its own personality. Like the sense of humor in that game is a lot of fun.
It's from what I saw, it's where Duke Nukem should have gone.
Yeah,
just realize that yes, this guy's a idiot.
Yeah, it's not misogynistic so far, so that's nice. But...
Yeah, I love how like Gearbox with some of their was like, oh no, we have progressive female characters. You also released Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah, that invalidates anything else, in my opinion. Just take a look at that scene with the alien, the pregnant alien women or whatever, and it's just, ugh.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, that was like basically the subtext for the Alien movies, but this is supposed to be a silly shooter about, and it's hard. Not that you can't, but if you're going to do rape jokes, you need to have a certain level of exaggeration.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Looney Tunes cartoons, hitting someone with an anvil as opposed to shooting them in the face with a gun, which Bugs Bunny did do once, and that's one of those Warner archives that they don't want to get out there.
Well, like, one I could just think of off the top of my head was that, if you saw Kick-Ass 2...
I did not. I had no desire, but...
Okay. Well, there's this one point where he's called the MF. I don't know if we have to worry about language or not.
Nah, swear it away.
The motherfucker,
yeah.
him with his, like, evil supervillain army breaks into the house of like one of the members of the superhero team, like when she's not in her costume and is all alone, and like he has this thing that's like he's going to rape her. It's like, you need to have evil dick, and then like his like henchmen holding him down, and it just stops, and it's like the henchman goes, what the hell's going on? It's like, I can't get it up, and then the girl just starts laughing at him.
Okay, I heard something about that scene, but I didn't hear that much detail about it, I guess.
Yeah. Ironically, that to me was one of the better movies of this year, which to me is actually kind of sad.
Yeah.
Good enough should not be good.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some good things this year, I thought, but...
Yeah, but going to Schlocking good, Typing of the Dead,
yes,
Overkill, and which also comes with House of the Dead Overkill.
Yes, I mean, hey, double your money, or double the value, I should say.
Yeah,
I got it when it came out, and it was on sale for $10. I think it's normally $20 on Steam, so it's still cheap. And yeah, you get 2 great games. So For the person who's into schlock that's so bad it's good kind of stuff, it's a must get for sure. I mean, we talked about it last time and how much, well, not last time, but the time before last, how much we love this game. So
Overkill still gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling. I still can remember so many of the little lines. Especially, it's like, if you ask me, this entire thing was about indictment of modern feminism.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we can read that far into it.
Yeah, that ending is great.
It just acknowledges, like, this doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, it's a really nice sort of rib at people who wanna do really deep readings of video games. Yeah, I enjoyed that moment a lot.
Yeah. Not that there aren't ones that can't, but not everything is intended to be deep, and context matters for there being depth or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not saying like all you nerds need to chill out and not take it so seriously. I'm not saying that, but it was a fun little jab, I thought.
Yeah. Going on to it, I don't think I've played this one. Key Reigns.
Well, I bring it up because this is the point of the list where I started just looking at the Wikipedia entry for all the games released this year, and I just went through it chronologically. So this is one game that came out very early this year that I did happen to play, and I'm not going to say I'd recommend it, but I would say that it's certainly a cheap game. So again, if you're on a budget and want to get something for your gamer person in your life, they may appreciate it. It's sort of it's loosely connected to the Mad World world, and it's just kind of a crazy arcadey. It's here's how I'll explain it. It reminds me of a game that might have been on the Dreamcast. So if you know someone who's like really into cult classic-y like Dreamcast Sega games, it's perfect. It's not the best game in the world, like a lot of games on the Dreamcast were, but it's got a lot of personality, and it's just like fun and arcadey, and it's a cool little game. It's
if we're going to bring up stuff that's Dreamcasty and awesome, also got released this year, the director's cut of Deadly Premonition on PC.
Yes, and also PS3, notably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a game I really need to play because, as I told you before, I didn't get an Xbox until last year, and that was like number one on my list of games to play on Xbox, and I did pick it up, but for whatever reason I just haven't set aside the time to play through it, and I've only played like the first couple hours, and so I mean the first couple hours I loved it. It is very Dreamcasty. It reminds me a little bit of Shenmue, but like, not very vaguely.
I just love how awkward it is, but like enthusiastically so.
Yeah.
Like just that entire scene when he's sitting in having breakfast with the one woman, and it's just this ridiculous cutscene. And it ends with the immoral lines of "FK in the coffee."
I'm not even
like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have some insight? I don't know what that means.
I don't either. It's it's basically Twin Peaks the video game.
Yeah.
So it's like Del Cooper all over again. He's
right.
He's not driven by logic. He's driven by this weird ass intuitiveness.
Yeah, it is funny how Twin Peaks has become a jumping off point for a lot of games. There was that Lone Survivor game, which was very Twin Peaksy or just very David Lynchy, that came out last year. There's Deadly Premonition recently. Alan Wake was very Twin Peaksy. Seems like a go-to reference point for a lot of culty sorts of stuff these days.
Though I do actually think that there's a lot of really excellent writing. Like, I even put it better than The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah?
As far as the writing that goes into Deadly Premonition. Because just the monologues he has when he's driving are, like, insanely detailed. Like, just all this stuff about cinema. Like, he brings up, like, Jaws, Back to the Future, even, like, these really weird ass obscure movies I've never heard of.
Yeah. Can you remember one that he mentions offhand?
No,
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I just remember that, like, there's driving from point A to point B has never been as exciting as it is in Deadly Premonition.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're even something of a cinephile, like how that's got it makes those, I guess, inherently boring sections of the game. Although I would argue that they're not, because personally I really love like weird attention to my mundane details in games like that, where you do just sort of drive a car at 40 miles an hour and it feels like 40 miles an hour, and it's like a pretty convincing looking cockpit view. And
Well, the crazy thing with Deadly Premonition, at least with the 360 version, which I almost think is the superior one because the graphics are crappier.
Yeah.
It looks like Dreamcast on the
Yeah.
360, which is actually part of the charm in my opinion.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I love the Dreamcast. I still fire it up and play stuff that I missed out on the first time. And
Yeah, but they actually have a solution to that conflict that some people bring up of like the player avatar versus the intent of the quote game author,
Mhm.
whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yes.
Because you are Zach. That is kind of the idea in the game. You are the other person he's talking to, and like he will do things like says, "I'll leave it up to you, Zach." So Francis York Morgan is his own insistent character.
Yeah.
And you're playing as him as his alternative personality, Zach.
That's a cool reading. I've actually, because I've like I said, I haven't played that much of it, but I was aware of his alternate personality, but didn't really come across it in the bit that I played. And yeah, when people talk about that, they don't really talk about it in terms of dealing with that player avatar versus authored narrative situation, the way you describe it. And that is a cool sort of conceit to deal with that problem.
Yeah. Yes, it's funny how this goes back to this that like Beyond, like they tried to I think make Aiden into that player avatar as it were, but they didn't really let you.
You had no
they
agency.
Didn't really acknowledge. Yeah, you have no agency, so you really aren't your own autonomous being.
Yeah. Missed opportunity.
Yep.
But let's jump off from So Bad It's Good to So Bad It's Bad and talk about Double Dragon 2: Wander of the Dragons, which I haven't touched.
I didn't. Was this a remake of 2 or was this brand new?
It was a remake of 2, and from what I can gather, it was very much in the vein of that much maligned Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time remake that was 3D, and I believe it's all polygonal, and it's like a 2.5D kind of game, and
that's not good.
No, and it was apparently it has like one of the lowest Metacritic scores. I think it has like a 16 or a 17 or something like that. And
then I'm just going to suggest get someone Double Dragon Neon instead.
Yeah,
that's like.
I didn't connect with that game myself, but I'm sure it's way better than this.
Oh no! I'm not saying it's the best game ever, but like it's like it wears its 80s nostalgia bomb on like its sleeve, and just the soundtrack alone is hilariously like cheesy 80s.
Yeah, the soundtrack is awesome in that game for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I would say like just play the original Double Dragon 2 in all its incarnations. Like a lot of them are different. Like the NES version is really good. The arcade version is okay. It's totally different from the NES version. And then there's the like PC Engine version, which has like animated anime cutscenes and stuff. And I
Yeah,
mean,
that could go with the Criterion
yeah,
Collection,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. Even throw this new remake into that one too. You know what the hell? Why not?
Yeah, well, they
Um,
did it with the Mega Mans. Like, here's some of the crappy arcade games we did.
yeah,
Fuck off.
yeah. Yeah, so I would say get yourself an Ouya and get the NES emulator and get the MAME emulator and get a PC Engine emulator somewhere. I don't know if there's one on Ouya or not. And play all of its other incarnations that are out there, which are better. And you can do that for free pretty much, even if you don't have an Ouya. I mean, if you have a PC, you can do it.
Let's see. Your next one was Thomas Was Alone on the PS3.
Yeah, I played this last year on PC, and I you know, actually, I never finished it because I got stuck in a spot that I could not get out of, and I couldn't ever find like a good strategy guide, and I just gave up. But what I played of it is good, and I think it's pretty cheap on PSN. I want to say it's only like $5 or something. I could be wrong. It might be more like 10 or 15, but I would definitely recommend it. Came out, I forget when, sometime this year. Actually, same with Lone Survivor. That was another game from 2012 that I played on PC.
Yeah, Lone Survivor I would recommend, though. I kind of got stuck in it, and it just kind of got occupied with other things.
Oh yeah, that I did. I will say that is a tough game to get through, especially I got it when it first came out on PC, and it was before it got the patches to sort of balance it and make it a little easier. And
Well, I think I broke one of the sequences because
ooh,
I was like, go through here, and it's like the character was going, I'm not going to go through there. It's like, what am I doing wrong?
it's possible, but it is a kind of a game that is somewhat torturous to play, like in a good way, you know, because it is a survival horror, and it was a cool feeling to get back to that sort of thing back in 2012 when, you know, I think that was the same year that Amy game came out, and
Oh god, yeah, Amy. Like if you hate someone, get them that game.
yeah, so although I will say I think like pure classic style survival horror is really kind of starting to come into its own more recently, but at that time when Lone Survivor came out, it really filled that void, and I would say
Actually, I don't necessarily know because the current crop of quote horror games we have are more like Outlast or Slenderman. Original survival horror had like a resource management aspect with it. You know, you had to manage every single bullet you had.
yeah, no, it's true. Like stuff like drawing a blank, Amnesia and like a Machine for Pigs and stuff. Yeah, it's a little different. But I mean, like the slow dread and the sort of limited resources are still kind of there. I mean, there's no combat in Amnesia. That's pretty cool too. But yeah, I would really love like a game that is like a really good pastiche of like Resident Evil 1 that even has like chunky polygons. I know no one else would want that but me probably, but I would find that to be kind of cool.
I do think that sprite nostalgia is not bad because it's definitely a different art style kind, but going with and now we're gonna make like PS1 level polygon graphics is not a good idea.
Well, it's the vanguard for retro nostalgia, wish fulfillment. I will say we have been seeing some like some games. One that's on my list here, actually a couple that are on my list, which I got on Indie Game Stand, which is a cool sort of storefront for indie games that you might not be seeing on like Steam and stuff. A couple games called Inverto, one called Inverto, and one called Fancy Skulls, both of which are made with Unity. And you're seeing a lot of Unity games lately that are like flat shaded with no textures, really simple polygon models. And it turns out, also games like Gravity Bone and I can't remember the other games from that developer. I think Blendo Games is what they're called. It's a lot of these games that have like, I would say, a distinct aesthetic. They're 3D, but they use very low poly, minimal texture kind of looks, and they actually achieve, I think, a pretty distinct art style. And I think that there's an art form to using low amounts of polygons and doing something visually striking with it in much the same way pixel art is given that same kind of pedigree. But that is PS.
Well, ultimately, doing things that are having good art design will matter more because a lot of the best games had good art design because the graphics, just face it, are you know abysmal by our quote unquote current standards.
Yeah, yeah,
But the games still look good because of they didn't try to go for realism. A lot of the games that went for realism look like absolute shit now.
yeah. Well, even something like, say, Metal Gear Solid 1, I actually think looks pretty decent these days. I mean, yeah, like the characters don't have eyes and stuff like that, sometimes, but
Yeah, I love how they're just like a square face. He has like a little polygon nose out,
yeah.
and it's just like the textured eyes. He's just like squinting.
Mm-hmm. And their heads.
Oh my god, he's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that's what they're going for. And their heads just sort of like shake really sharply to indicate that they're talking, and it doesn't look natural. But I don't know. I think there's a certain, at least in terms of like the level, the way the levels are rendered, there's a certain look to it that I think holds up pretty well. But
yeah, though Metal Gear Solid 1, back in the day was like pushing as much as it possibly could.
It really was. Yeah, it's a pretty good looking PS1 game all told.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, whatever. My point is, I think that there could be a renaissance of like ugly polygon games if we wanted it to happen. I might be the only one that wants it to happen though. So.
I would say low poly isn't necessarily a bad idea, but you should always try to, a certain aesthetic qualities do matter. I mean, there's a certain level of like, don't just make it crap. Try to make things look good.
Yeah.
If you can't necessarily, if you screw up a little bit, that's fine. But
yeah, for sure. Unless it's like one of those things where you're trying to be intentionally ugly, that's a thing sometimes. But yeah, I mean, you can craft. Things elegantly and simply.
Going off your list, art style wise, Ni no Kuni
Yes.
and The Cave.
Yes. Ni no Kuni I mentioned simply because of the art, because that was the reason I wanted to play that game, and after I did play it, and like any RPG I've played as of late, I only played about 8 hours of it. So one of these days I'll finish it. But the gameplay itself in Ni no Kuni I didn't find particularly amazing, but it's good enough, and the art style is so awesome, and it's kind of worth going through it just to kind of see the next landscape that you come across, and weird enemy design and that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, it's Ghibli the RPG.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful, and yeah, it's probably some of the best looking cell shaded.
Cell shading.
Yeah, it's some of the best
Yeah.
cell shading I've seen. It really almost does look like you're looking at a cartoon. Actually, I think something
I think the cave looks very much like a cartoon.
Yeah, the cave has a really cool art style to it as well. I wouldn't call it cell shaded; it's a little different. But they do things with 3D models that give them a lot of expressiveness, and yeah, that was a cool little game. Not the best thing in the world, but for like a I think it's probably like 5 or 6 hours to get through, and there's various characters you can play through it again as the different characters. And,
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that Double Fine, as far as I can tell, the artists that they have are more, was it European influenced than. Or at least that's always the impression I got, especially when like games like was it Stacking, which is
yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah, I was just gonna say it really sort of runs with this like European, almost like steampunk, I would say, but yeah, the idea of like Russian nesting dolls and then making it sort of a period piece, like turn of the century Russia or wherever it takes place. I didn't actually play Stacking, so I'm kind of talking out of my ass here, but
yeah. Well, I just played the demo. I thought this was fun, though I couldn't be. I was like, this is cool. I don't actually know if it's for me.
Right. No, I did play the demo myself. Yeah, that's about it though.
Yeah. That's one of the few things I do like about the last gen or whatever we're at with the quote transition, because to me next gen hasn't really started because there really aren't any next gen games, as it were.
Right.
Or whatever is going to be counted as the current gen.
I'm just waiting for The Witness on PS4, and then I might think about getting one so I can play that.
Ironically, I know it's like me being super mainstream, but Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, that's the game that'll probably make me get a next gen system.
Yeah, what is the story with that? Is it actually going to come out on like PS3 and 360 as well, or is it just strictly a next gen game?
From what I understand, it might just be a next gen. Of course, I think they probably will just do it because there's so many more PS3s and 360s out.
Yeah.
That they did say their new engine, they were supposed to be like scalable, which I think that is a good idea to do for a lot of things. Just make it systems that you can languages or frameworks that you can just import stuff into other game systems correctly without having to do a shit ton of work.
Yeah.
Because that's what really brought down the PS3 was that learning, it had awesome graphics capabilities, but it took forever for people to learn how to program for it.
Yeah.
And it was just easier to make stuff for the Xbox.
Yeah, exactly. It was more of a PC style architecture and yeah, they've seemed to have learned that lesson when they announced the PS4 earlier this year and came out and were like, guys, x86 or whatever it was, I can't remember the specs they gave, but it was like, this thing's going to be easy to develop for, guys.
That's what I always put it down. I mean, start with simplicity and work to complexity. I mean, that if you go with, using painting as an analogy, which I don't necessarily think is the best idea if I'm going to do it anyways.
Go for it.
Think about it. A brushstroke is a really simple thing. Mm-hmm. It's putting a shit ton of brushstrokes together in the correct order that makes this really complicated, really intrinsically amazing piece of art.
Yeah. And even the brushstroke itself, there's various ways of doing the brushstroke even, so there's a lot of potential for complexity.
There occasionally are people that they have 30 million brushes, but a lot of times there's just the person with the one brush.
Yeah, I think that's the smart thing in terms of game visual creation these days is to choose that one brush stroke that you like and maybe kind of just focus on that one. The kitchen sink approach to engine building is probably not very tenable. We've seen a lot of AAA games bust this generation.
Yeah, to put it to the point of stretching the analogy,
okay.
It's like you don't have someone use a paint gun, then a high fidelity brush, then I don't know, then a paint, then a house painting brush, and then nobody does stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think they might have done that with, say, Final Fantasy 13, and that did not pay off very well for them, sadly. So.
No, I actually think the reason they did the sequels is I heard that over 50% of the assets, or maybe even 60% of the assets they built for 13
didn't
actually end up getting used.
Right. No, they have to make those games. They have to like make it. They have to justify the existence of that engine or whatever, or those assets. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like, or of course doesn't help that I think I linked it to you. The guy who created Lightning is like obsessed with her and wants to marry
Right.
Lightning.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, help! You know, if I ever want to marry any of my characters, kill me. I'm no longer human.
Exactly. You have retreated into a fantasy realm that you will never return from.
Well, no, it's one thing when someone does that with like a book, who's like a fan of the book. How fucked up are you when you create the thing and you're that obsessed with it?
Right. Yeah, it's one thing to fall in love with an idea or some story that someone else has written, but yeah, the thing you created, well, it makes some sense. It comes directly from your brain, so it's exactly what you want. I don't know. It's probably best not to think about it too hard.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to end on a slightly high note with like my last recommendation.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
I know I don't necessarily have too many, but I'd almost suggest because the second season's coming out in like 2 or 3 days. The Walking Dead season 1.
I can't. Oh yeah, right. Sure.
Now, I don't know how season 2 is going to be.
It doesn't matter. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, but for if someone who's slightly interested in that game, you know, or likes the TV show, get them that. Don't get them the survival or whatever
Survival
it's
Instinct.
called.
Yeah, do not do it.
Yeah, don't get them that one. I actually think that's probably one of the most dickish moves I've seen, because I can just imagine people typing, "Oh, that Walking Dead game's really good," and then get Survival Instinct. It's like, what the hell is everyone talking about?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that game had to come out. But yeah, for sure. And then there's also the little sort of bonus episode that they did, 400 Days, which isn't.
Yeah, that did come out this year, if I remember right.
Yeah, and that's a cool little DLC. It's only $5. That's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of annoyed because Steam screwed up with its updating and I actually lost my save. Like, it overwrote it with a blank one, so I had none of my choices saved.
That sucks.
Though that technically doesn't really matter, because this is always those things about those games that emphasize, oh, your choices matter, that you kind of are going to end up in the same place anyways, just a few things are going to be slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah, there is one sort of important choice you can make at the very end of the game, so that's, as far as I can figure, that's the only real choice that would matter, I would think.
Well, yeah, is Zombie Lee going to show up in Season 2? I think that's one of the only major things.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, because the other choices don't really affect Clementine in any real way, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Well, it's still going like Kenny's supposedly live, which I guess since you didn't see him die, he'll probably show up again.
I thought, well, in my game, I seem to remember seeing him die. I thought he, like, fell off a roof or something.
Oh, really?
I think that's what happened for me.
Well, yeah, I always have a rule whenever I see or do anything. If you don't see the body, they're probably not dead.
Yeah, no, that's fair, yeah.
And even when they do show you the body, if they're really cheap bastards, they're not dead.
Yeah. No.
Because what was it, 24? I think at one point they like show one of Jack's partners get like blown up in a car bomb, and he comes back like 3 seasons later, working for a terror cell and like undercover. It's like, what the fuck, guys?
Yeah, exactly. If you don't see that dead body, then you can't be totally sure. But yeah, that's pretty much my list. The only other thing I would mention is Ripple.Zero, which is a really cool browser game that came out this year. So just send a link send an email with a link to your friend or family member, and you got yourself a free gift you can send to someone, because it's a free browser game and it's a really cool game. I would love to see like a Steam release for it or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, to go real quick with some of the bigger titles, I did like Tomb Raider and Assassin's Creed 4 this year.
Yeah, and I haven't played either of those myself. I asked for Tomb Raider
Yeah.
for Christmas, so hopefully I'll get that myself and I'll finally play it.
Oh, they had like the winter. They had like a winter sale recently, or it was the Thanksgiving one where like Tomb Raider was like $7.
Yeah, well, I really want, for whatever reason, I want a box copy of it, and I want it for PS3, and it actually was on sale for $15 at Target last week,
Okay.
but
Uh,
I had already asked for it for Christmas by then, so it was too late.
okay. Oh, that's fine. Other thing with game wise, Assassin's Creed 4, I was actually rather surprised with because I was not interested in that game at all.
But you ended up playing it. Why is that?
Because I heard good things about
Hmm.
it, like after the console version came out, and it was like, oh, it's like an actual like pirate game. Because the trailer for it just made it look like more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were emphasizing like they were the actual like character of Kenway is completely different from this like the advertised version where there's like Pat Blackbeard talking about the man is a demon and all these other things. Like, oh great, it's another like monotone I'm a gruff assassin guy.
Yeah, but it
And
didn't.
that's what it may look like, and he's not. He's actually kind of like a self-absorbed pirate who's out, for fame and glory.
Yeah, as a pirate should be.
Yes, exactly, and that's why I was going like, wow, this character's actually fun.
How about that?
The only problem I really have with it is that you basically work for Google.
Yeah.
like that's the real world storyline. Like it's like you're doing all this awesome pirate shit, and it's like, welcome to Google. I'll let you push the buttons in the elevator.
That's something. Yeah, I've never been a fan of the cutting away to the present day Animus guy or whatever in those games.
Yeah, it's like the albatross that's around the neck, like holding the series down.
Yeah.
I also just like that because I didn't play 3, so maybe they did streamline it a bit. But like Revelations turned me off from the series because they just had too much crap. Like, okay, we introduced these bombs you can use, and there's like 30 variants of them, and like 99% of them are pointless. Like, oh, here's one that throws money around because why?
Yeah. Yep, that's. I mean, I've never actually played an Assassin's Creed, and that's, as an outside observer, what I gathered from the series is it just seems like another one of these kitchen sink sorts of games that just has a lot of stuff in it that doesn't really make me want to play it.
Yeah, well, I would say you could probably just go in, play 4, not know anything about the other ones, and
Mm-hmm.
have a good time. Just focus on all the pirate stuff because that's the fun.
Maybe I will give it a shot if it is cheap on, like, say, the Wii U or something. Have an excuse
Yeah.
to play something on that thing.
Let's see. Let's review real quick. Is there anything else you can think of?
I've mentioned everything I wanted to. Emphasize, I guess, Steam sales, but, everyone knows about that. And I would say,
Yeah.
Earthbound is a definite gimme. I don't know if you can gift games on the Wii U the way you could with the Wii.
I think there might be. I'm not sure. Yeah, Nintendo's not always good with their UI.
Yeah,
stuff.
they're definitely not. But if you can, then definitely get your Wii U friend Earthbound if they don't have it, because that's a definite. It's a no-brainer. And Ni no Kuni is cheap now. You can get it new for like $20 most of the time, and that's definitely an out of the way game that people should check out. And I would say Indie Game Stand. Every 3 days there is a pay what you want sale for a new game on there, and so if you're cheap like me, you can gift games that way very easily.
If you want to go artsy fartsy, oh yeah, Stanley Parable. I actually kind of enjoyed that, even though.
Yeah, I didn't get to play that yet, and I should.
Yeah, I guess the thing I like about it is it kind of mocks a lot of the style of games that usually is like stuff like the art games, things like Gone Home and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Because the entire thing is in essence about an existential crisis between the narrator wants the player to do one thing, but players inherently want to kind of do other things and explore. And it just, it has all these nice little branching paths, and that's actually entirely what it's about. But the presentation on Stanley Parable is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And last one, just because it was a lot of fun, Saints Row 4, though Violation go to hell for all your crappy DLC you keep pumping out.
Yeah.
$3 for fucking skins. What the fuck?
Yep. That's been the worst development this past generation is DLC, or at least one of them.
DLC isn't a bad idea on paper. It's that the sheer abuse of the system. It's like, here's the skin pack that, like, if there was actual modding, people would probably making better stuff. I mean, Left 4 Dead 2, I have the Raptor mod, which like turns the entire team into Velociraptors.
Yes, I think it should be left up to modders to do that sort of stuff. And I miss when games like Resident Evil 4 would come out and all of the stuff that would be DLC now was right there on the disc. Unlockable costumes and weapons and entirely new like side story missions and gameplay modes, all on the original disc. Yeah, I mean, and then they found a new way to make money.
It's not quite done yet, but Starbound I enjoy, though I would suggest people wait because they're still doing character wipes on the beta they're at.
I will take your word. I know nothing about this game.
Oh, it's like Terraria, but a lot better in my opinion, because the thing about it is, instead of being stuck on like one particular place, you have a starship, so you can go all over the galaxy, as it were, and just keep going to all these other randomly generated worlds.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I tried to play Terraria once, and I don't think it's for me. So this game might not be for me either, but
potentially they have a actual like tutorial, which is one of those things I think was missing from the likes of like Minecraft.
Yeah,
because you have no idea what you're doing when you start Minecraft.
Yeah,
and you have to look up online. It's like, oh, you have to cut down a tree and then place the things in your little crafting thing in this particular order. Then you can actually start to do things.
Well, I think that was part of the appeal of Minecraft, though, is the sort of word of mouth aspect that grew out of it, with people telling you, oh, this is what you got to do, and all the wikis that started cropping up, and it sort of added to the viral quality of it.
I suppose though, I generally like there at least being something I can look up within the game for like what the hell I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Or what the hell I can do, I should probably say.
Right. Yeah, I can agree with that.
But yeah, I thought this was a good one. This was about an hour and 10, so
yeah. So there you have it. There's our recommendations for your holiday gift giving guide for your gamer person in your life.
Yeah, happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, anti-Christmas, or whatever Satanists follow through. Festivus for the rest of us.
All right, so that'll do it. This has been the Bowser Press Co-op podcast, and I am Matt.
I'm Isaac.
Okay, so until next time.
Peace.
Bye.